workers, John Smith, Josh Hancher, Dustin Wood, and Jason Brazel, all from Dawgs Central. If you have not checked us out over at dawgcentral.com yet, I am obviously contractually obligated to ask you to go and do so. Other than that, we've got some great questions from our subscribers in the queue already loaded up to go. If you want to join this space through YouTube and listen that way, we are watching the live chat on the Dawgs Central YouTube channel. Just go to the Dawgs Central YouTube channel and we will see what you have to say. I am going to add a couple of these guys in here and we will kick this off. All right. Let's see what we got here. Raleigh Dog asks, if Luther Burton had signed with Georgia, would he be the number one wide receiver for Oregon? No, not in my opinion. I think that there is a decent chance that he would be in a starting rotation, but I think the number one wide receiver at Georgia right now is A.D. Mitchell, and as talented as Burden is, I don't think he would have been able to come in and overtake Mitchell. He obviously had a great freshman year last year, showed up to camp in even better shape. He's kind of had everybody on skates so far this fall camp from what we have been told, and is looking very, very good. So I do not expect him to – I don't think that that Burden would have been able to come in and overtake him. But I do think he would have been able to come in and probably see some early reps at the Z position, especially with Arian Smith being hurt. And just, there's a lot of talent that could possibly play at that position. Lad McConkey played a lot of snaps there last year. He's a pretty proven commodity at this point. But, nobody's really fully asserted themselves in that spot yet. And so I think he would have had a chance to come in and at least, share some snaps there. All right. All of my co-hosts, you guys have been added as speakers. So jump in.
Yeah, Grant, that was pretty cool. Question to start off the bat, because we talked about Missouri in our SEC East breakdown earlier this week. And I had forgotten about Luther Burton because I'm looking at stats from last year, and you obviously pointed out he's definitely going to be wide receiver one. And but yeah, I don't think he is wide receiver one. I completely agree. Excited to see hopefully A.D. Mitchell take the lid off of what could be an exciting career for the Dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any word on CJ Smith? Seems like there would be reps for him with the Arian Smith injury from a pure speed perspective, but have heard absolutely nothing about him since he's arrived. Does anyone want to jump in on this, or should I take it?
Go for it.
Okay. I think he, had some injuries kind of at the end of his high school career. I don't know that he's like 100% healthy yet. He is a guy from a pure speed perspective. He's probably the closest on the roster to Arian Smith. But I think more of a raw receiver who is just going to need time to develop a full route tree. Maybe as he gets kind of healthier and up to speed, we see Georgia sneak him on the field kind of in the second or, last third of the season. Kind of like they did with Arian Smith late in 2020. Like, that wouldn't shock me because I think if you put him out there and have him run a go route, he's probably just going to fly past most of the guys that he's going to face. I know when Georgia did their spring combine, he, laser verified 4.45 type of speed, which is rare to come by. There's a lot of folks that say they have a 4.4, but there's not that many guys that are a 4.4 when you get a laser on them. So, definitely one to watch, but still, I think a little too raw to expect anything from him come early in the season. And
I think he could be a guy that could be like Arian Smith was a couple years ago, where you had those moments where you just put him on the field, put him on a go route. He doesn't have to do any complex route tree like you were saying, Graham, and he can just take the lid off in certain situations. I think he'll definitely come around to being situational, but he was limited in spring because of the meniscus surgery. They did a few things to just clean up some old stuff from high school, which is not uncommon for a program like Georgia to do that for players that are early enrollees. But I do think that him sitting for a little while to get through that has kind of put him not. I don't want to say behind because all true freshmen are behind.
All right, I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but we just lost everybody, and we are rebooting. Sorry about that. John had some really excellent points that he was making, so apologies, John, for cutting you off there. Yeah,
maybe they weren't so excellent. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe the internet gods were like, "You're speaking nonsense. We're cutting you off."
Yeah,
I know.
sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, I thought it was some sabatage, but no, we're back up. We got a bunch of people. We didn't lose anybody on YouTube, so
Cool.
As we were wrapping it up on CJ Smith, right?
I got you. Is Jason? Yeah, Jason. I'm just inviting you to speak because we have a recruiting question for you coming up here. But June recruiting fearmonger, who is that's probably one of the better usernames on the Dog Central forum, asks, got a few questions about the inside linebackers. How do you think that rotation will look by the end of the year? Who's the alpha in that room making the calls and getting everyone lined up pre-snap? Which of those guys will be the best pass rusher? Which of them will be best in coverage? Okay, that's really like 5 questions in one. So the inside linebackers, we've talked about this a lot on our subscriber forum. Like that has been a area that I think has been up and down so far in the preseason, in the fall camp. There's been some guys who have had some nice moments and then, kind of tail off and come back again. So I think right now, if the season started today, I think your two starters there at that position would be Smail Mondin and Jamon Dumas-Johnson. But I think you're going to see probably a little bit of rotation. I do think, Jelon Walker is a true freshman, but was here in the spring, has impressed, has done well, and, is going to continue to kind of push in that regard for an opportunity to play. You're also going to see, I think, some of Xavier Sori, as well as oh my God, who's the fifth one? Tresman Marshall. And Marshall, is the older one in that room. So I think like he's the guy that has the most knowledge of the scheme and playbook. And in a perfect world, I think he would kind of assert himself more. But I think all of these guys, there's so much talent in that room. A lot of it so young that you've had some guys have really good days, and then the next day maybe they drop off a little bit. And so no one's really grabbed a hold of that position. So, kind of asking who the alpha dog in that room is hard to say because I don't think there is one yet. If I had to guess, like it seems like Dumas-Johnson has been the kind of most consistent force, but yeah, I'm very curious as well to see who's making the calls against Oregon at that inside linebacker position. As far as coverage goes, I would have to say probably Mondin or Tresman Marshall, I think, would be the two best cover guys in there potentially. You've heard Kirby Smart talk about how Mondin is just a different type of athlete than they've ever had an inside linebacker. And when you think about the inside linebackers he's coached, that's saying a lot. Marshall, you saw some of his skills on G-Day. I mean, he had his hands on 3 different balls that could have been intercepted. Did have 1 interception in that game. I think that's a huge strength, and I think that Georgia will probably need him at some point when they play a little bit more like spread heavy kind of passing attack. Maybe against Mississippi State or Tennessee, you could see him come out and play some significant snaps because they might trust him a little more in coverage. What do my co-hosts think? Anything about the linebackers?
Here's my hot take of the night, Graham.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Everybody knows, and it's no secret, how Kirby Smart is huge on special teams. So I'm going with Walker, shows out on special teams for a few games, and ends up being in the starting lineup by the end of the season.
I like it. I don't really disagree with it either. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think it's hard to disagree with anything that's been said so far. I think the one thing to remember is Glenn Schumann. He's been on record as he coaches a modern linebacker position, so the athleticism is super important. The ability to coverage, and what Jason was just saying about special teams, right? You put your best athletes on special teams, and let them kind of start feeling that heat of the moment and see how they respond. And I think you'll probably see more. My hot take is I think you'll probably see more than just Jelon Walker from a linebacker on special teams. But I think yeah, if it was today, I would say Smile Mondin and Jamon Dumas Johnson would be the 2 that you're going to roll out there.
I just throw some stats in here where, I mean, just a wealth of talent had been recruited there. Mondin, a 5-star, Dumas Johnson, a 4-star, 0.921, 247 rating. Marshall is a 0.9464, and Jelon is a 984, all high 4 stars. We're very lucky to have such a wealth of talent there. I mean, and Dumas Johnson had 100 snaps. He leads those players with 2021 snaps there. So just wanted to throw in some stats for you guys.
Well, and you got a guy. I think you've got a guy in Raylan Wilson, the 2023 class, that might be better than all the guys you just mentioned too. So Glenn Schumann is not to be trifled with on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, Raylan Wilson is nasty, and that kid he's only 16.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he runs what, like a 10-700 meter or something silly like that.
Yeah, he can get after it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. One for Jason and Dustin, maybe.
Real quick, Graham.
Yeah.
For the folks who are joining us, we're taking questions from our Dog Central subscribers that they've posted on our forum. We're going to take live questions from y'all as soon as we get through those. So if you have a question, just click the request to speak button and we'll start lining folks up.
Yeah, we actually don't have too many forum questions tonight, so we should get through those pretty quick and have lots of time for
just 2 more questions. Let's go.
All right, I got it. Okay, Raymond Cottrell is posting Aggie stuff. Is he flipping or trolling? ? Is the Anthony Evans possible commitment a factor? That's from Dog Central member Dog Girl.
No, either way, I don't think the Evans commitment's going to be a factor at all. And, I mean, there's been rumors with Raymond Cottrell before about maybe possibly not being in this class. Right now, I would treat it as just, he's a committed kid, and a lot of these committed kids, when they stay committed, they're not getting as much attention as all the other guys. So I would treat it right now as just attention grabber.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't be as concerned because they are trying to get a 5th guy if it's the right guy. And if they get into a position where he does go and they don't hit on any of these guys, they're going as the fifth guy. They can always go to the portal down the road for that spot.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Okay, who returns kicks for Georgia this year? With running back depth being what it is, I'm starting to think we don't put Kenny Mack there. That's an interesting one. If you guys want to variate between kickoffs and punts, that is fine as well.
I mean, maybe this is just the novice, less than experienced. I'm not gonna say novice football watcher of the game, but it just seems like Ty Gurley got his start there in his freshman year. So, is there a chance we see some Branson Robinson back there, or is that too thin at running back now to have him running back?
I would be surprised. I mean, as good as Gurley was, like, I don't know that Robinson has kind of that. I mean, like, Todd Gurley was Todd Gurley. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different type of dude. Robinson's really good, but I don't know that he has maybe the breakaway speed that you would want on kickoffs. I think he's going to be more of kind of a bruiser. Kenny McIntosh would be, I think, the number one option. His career kickoff return averages are very, very high. He's, every time he gets a good return, he usually makes a play out of it, kind of one out of every two. But I just don't know if they'll put him back there, especially with Milton having the hamstring issue right now. They may be wise to not do that.
I'm not great with the names of the positions on special teams. I could see Branson being the up guy, the one right in front of the receiver.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wedge player.
Yeah. For me, I think it's going to be Kyrus Jackson again. So last year, Kyrus Jackson returned 28 kickoffs and 22 punts. And I think you'll probably see him. But last year, Georgia they rotated the kickoff returners last year were Kyrus Jackson, Lab McConkey, Kenny McIntosh, Zamir White. Kendall Milton returned one, and Dominic Blaylock returned a couple. So it's definitely heavy ones, running back and wide receiver ones in there.
You named the two that I was going to kind of just throw out. And this is speculation, honestly. I'm not sure he's going to return kickoffs opening game. But I could definitely see Ladd, particularly on punts. With kickoff returns, you have a little more time to make decisions and usually a lot more blocking help. But punt returns usually happen in a positive manner for a guy who can make like a quick move in space and then just get upfield and go. And McConkey definitely has that ability to make the first guy miss. I think, Kyrus has kind of been the most consistent force on kickoff returns over the last couple of years, punt returns as well. So I think that's a logical one. But with Dominic Blaylock healthy, I wouldn't be shocked to see him back there either. I know that Kirby puts a really big emphasis on, like, before worrying about the punt being returned for a touchdown or anything like that. I think the ultimate priority is just making sure that it's not going to be a fumble. So I think wide receivers are kind of the better candidate for the punts.
It may not be game one because he's a freshman, but if I'm the coach, Bell is eventually doing both for me.
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. What'd you say?
If I'm the coach, maybe not game one because he's a freshman, but Bell is doing both for me eventually.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Dylan Bell. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jason's going to make fun of me, but the one who had a really, really good high school film, if we're just going to give him one role on this team, Cole Spear, he had really good highlights for kick returning.
Cole Spear, Calhoun, Georgia, baby.
All right. Last question from the forum. Is Tyke Smith taking reps on special teams? And if yes, where? I know that Georgia has worked on special teams a lot this week so far. The kicking game was quite ugly early or in the last scrimmage, particularly on field goals. And that's something that, I think they've been drilling really hard. Tyke Smith kind of being, sort of a second, third guy in some of the defensive back rotation spots would be a logical guy to maybe see as a gunner on punt returns, or I'm sorry, on punt coverage or on kick coverage. But, also working his way back from that injury, that's kind of a high impact job, so that may be something that they're a little more careful with him on. So to be determined on Tyke. I am going to start adding some folks in to speak. I saw Kennington at Skinny Kenny had requested to speak earlier, so I'm going to see if he wants to jump in here. Jim, I see you have requested to speak, so I'm going to throw you in as well. Just unmute yourself once you speak, and we'll go from there. Jim, go ahead. You are a speaker.
Sorry. Yeah, cut out for a second. So I was actually had a comment about June recruiting fearmongers question. So because I think they actually asked the same question for John and I talked about that on My Got a Podcast this week. And one of the things we talked about was like a bit of a parallel between the turnover at inside linebacker this year as compared to like 17 to 18. Because that year we had Roquan as the clear number one, and then I think the leading returning tackler that came back as far as inside linebacker was Monty Rice, right, a true freshman. So just feeling like seeing a little bit of a parallel there, where this year we lost even more, obviously, right, losing our top three inside linebackers. But something like I had noticed was in 18, like LeCount actually led the team in tackles. So like the safeties ended up kind of picking up some of the slack for the younger linebackers. So just, I don't know, trying to get your guys' thoughts on that. I mean, that's not necessarily always a good thing, but could we see something like that this year?
Yeah, that's a great point. I definitely think, I don't know, like we were talking earlier, there's, Josh pointed out how many kind of, 4 or 5 star top 50 overall players in their class that Georgia has in that inside linebacker room. So there's not going to be a shortage in talent, but I do think that, those guys are asked to do so much that I think that it's going to be very possible for them to, have some moments or, miss a gap assignment or something like that. So, Christopher Smith back there, he may have the most experience of anyone on this team from a sheer snap count and game started number, at least on the defense by this point. So I think he'll definitely be a good safety valve. Pardon the pun, I guess. I didn't mean to do that, but I think you could see that for sure. I also would not be surprised to see, Dan Jackson. I think they really like him as a box safety. He does a nice job of he can fill gaps like a linebacker at times. So that wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah, I'm just going to tie a bow on that one, Graham, because you nailed it. Last year, the leading tackler at Georgia was actually Lewis Cine. But if you look, Georgia lost their top 5 tacklers. If you look at the guys returning, the top returning tacklers are Nolan Smith, but after Nolan Smith, you have Dan Jackson, Keely Ringo, and Christopher Smith. So a lot of tackles being made in that secondary, and Dan Jackson being the second leading returning tackler coming back for the team is going to be, I think, a big difference for Georgia this year.
Absolutely. Okay, we do have a question from our friend Axe. If you were creating an opening game script versus Oregon, how would you attack them early and often? I'd like to hear y'all's perspective on this one, and then I'll jump in at the end.
I think certainly you've seen Bo Nix. You want to take away his comfort zone. I think you want to just I don't think you blitz him and give him opportunities to make plays with his feet and improvise, because I think that's where his, I don't know if you want to call it a strength is, but I think containing him will be huge, and I think you're going to play a lot of guys over the middle, making sure nothing slips out underneath. I don't think he can challenge you too far downfield, and with Ringo and it sounds like Lassiter hopefully off to a good start. That you just contain him and hopefully get out of their scripted plays and then start to beat them down and like the offense should be able to, and just don't let Bo Nix beat you, I guess is how I would approach this game.
I think we may have even mentioned this last time. I start Malachi Starks at star, and his job is to spy Bo Nix the whole game.
I like it. How about on the offensive side of the ball? Any thoughts on that?
4 or 5 tight ends.
Yeah, I think I was going to say that. See, the challenge is, right, Oregon is a pretty good defensive team at linebacker, especially. But I think you can create mismatches. I think you do go, you want to be careful because Dan Lanning, he knows, I mean, everybody knows those tight ends, right? They're going to absolutely scheme for those mismatches. But in some areas, I think it's not going to matter. I think you can put tight ends in places and go that 12 personnel, and you have situations where you can run the ball, you have situations where you can throw the ball. I also think that you do have to figure out how to stretch the field, because I think Oregon has good athletes on defense, but I think Georgia match up one-on-one athletically can stretch Oregon. And I think you do both of those things, and then if those two fail, I think you could line up and you can road grade them because Utah did that last year, right? Like, I think Georgia has enough in the bag that there's 2 or 3 levels of scheme that you can run on them.
Yeah, I was about to say those linebackers are good till they find Tate Ratledge and either Truss or Wilson or whoever coming after him,
or until they have to cover Darnell Washington, on a drag route, and he's got 4 or 5 inches on you, right? I mean, there's a number of things that I think Georgia has at their disposal versus those guys.
Well, then what do they do when Darnell Washington's in on one side at tight end, and we split Brock Bowers out wide? Are they going to send a linebacker out there to cover Bowers by himself?
I think that's the problem, right?
I personally, as a Georgia fan, I hope they do. Personally, please do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I just shared a tweet. If you look at the top of this little Spaces kind of interface that we're in here, I started doing some Oregon prep last week and went back and watched their first game against Utah when Utah just kind of thrashed them, honestly, for lack of a better term. I mean, they beat them 38-7, and it was just a nightmare from the start. I think, like, Oregon has some good linebackers. I don't want to, say anything like disparaging about any of these guys, but like Justin Flo, he wasn't that great in coverage last year. Now, I know he didn't play a ton. He only saw 47 coverage snaps, but he gave up 6 catches on 7 targets. And so, I think that's an area where Georgia can do what they do with a guy like Kenny McIntosh, right? Where, I think you start out 12 and 13 personnel, 2 and 3 tight end sets, and you run the ball at them. And I think that they will have a hard time stopping that. I think the weak point for that Oregon defensive line is, the weak point for Oregon's entire team. I think that defensive line is just kind of the unit that is the biggest question mark in my mind. Not a lot of experience there. I don't know that they have the size to play with an offensive line like Georgia. So I think they would struggle to deal with just Georgia's starting 5 offensive line, and then you add those tight ends into the run game, and I think you will see Georgia probably gash them a little bit on the ground early, and they're either going to have to, switch to some heavier personnel or bring those safeties up into the box or, do something, come tighter in to try and stop it. And at that point, I think you do end up with those mismatches where, you have Bowers or Washington on a tight end, or all of a sudden you kind of do the James Cook play that they did a few times over the last couple seasons where he motions out wide or Kenny McIntosh motions out wide and, all of a sudden it's bombs away. But I think, the tight end position really is kind of the building block of almost everything that Todd Monken does in terms of just creating conflict and matchup problems. And if Georgia's able to establish the run early, it's going to be a long day for Oregon on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will just say this, that if you look at coverage grades for the PFF coverage grades, the Oregon linebackers are some of the lowest rated on their returning team for coverage, and like Jamon Dumas-Johnson is one of the higher rated ones for Georgia. So I think you're going to see those mismatches. And Kenny McIntosh was a great point. I think if you get in situations where you're having to decide to put a linebacker on a tight end like Brock Bowers or a Kenny McIntosh split out wide, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, fun fact that would probably surprise a lot of people, but the guy on Georgia's team in 2021 that had the highest receiving grade was Kenny McIntosh. He had like a 92.9 receiving grade. He runs routes like a slot receiver. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting.
And I absolutely love Noah Sewell, and I wanted him at Georgia so bad, and he almost came here. But if he finds himself having to cover Bowers or McIntosh one-on-one, I think he might be in trouble.
I am with you there, my friend. Okay, I'm going to bring a couple folks in. We got some requests. We've got Goldmouth Dog. You are being added in. Just unmute yourself when you are connected here and fire away, sir. Goldmouth Dog, you're on if you have a question.
Yeah, just a little pivot. My biggest question is how I know we have a talented running back room, and I'm excited for these guys, but with guys being banged up, how confident, or I would say, are we not confident in our running game this year?
I'm confident. I'm not going to say that running backs are, a dime a dozen, but we have plenty there. We're not as deep as we were to start the camp. But, I mean, Dejon is one guy we're not talking about. I mean, he's a bruiser. He trusts him with the ball.
Yeah, he's incredibly underrated to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, I think Milton hopefully will get healthy. But if you're telling me we got Kenny Mack, Dejon, and this Branson Robinson, hopefully he can get in there. I mean, you just got to be careful on what he has to do in pass protection with a young guy like that. But again, it's the South Carolina game aside, it's a pretty good opening stretch of games to get him some reps, with Sanford and Kent State. So I'm not worried about it. Do I wish we were deeper? Do I wish we had everybody healthy? Absolutely, but I don't think it's a cause for concern.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add with our
Am I the only one that lost Dustin there?
No,
I think we all did.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I think from my perspective, I think the offensive line for Georgia this year is going to be maybe the best one they've had under Kirby Smart. And I know that's saying quite a lot, but particularly in the run game, I think that they are going to excel. I mean, those guards are big and they're nasty. And, you're talking about like 300 plus pounds across that line of scrimmage. Broderick Jones, for as athletic as he is, and as well as he did in pass blocking in the national championship game, I mean, really where we saw him excel the most last year as he started to get more and more meaningful snaps was in run blocking. So I think that group is just going to be so good that even if you are maybe rotating some of these, maybe Branson Robinson has to take some snaps in this Oregon game in his first career college game because, obviously Andrew Paul is out and Milton is banged up. I think we'll see him play, but I don't think he is going to see 18 touches or anything like that, right? I think it's going to be a little more sporadic. So even if these young guys come in, I think that there's going to be holes to run through. And if you go back and look at that first half of Georgia's season last year, or like go look at the Missouri game last year, like that wasn't really always the case. The middle of that line struggled a lot, particularly the guards with Schaefer and Erickson just had a hard time from an assignment standpoint. And so I think you will see just probably some cleaner, more assignment sound offensive line play. And usually when that happens, the running backs will kind of take care of themselves.
For sure. And to add on just like another little piece, it's just I think Kenny Mack will be used like a Kamara this year. So it's like I'm worried about the depth behind that because he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get a lot of burn. So if we lose Kenny Mack and, you know, nothing against Milton, but he hasn't been the most available. So it's like we're kind of like down on our 1-2 punch. That's just the only thing that's like really concerning me. Everything else is cool. I'm cool with.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a valid concern. I mean, you know, Milton, he's a stud when you can get him in the game. It's just, you know, having him dinged up already, I think is probably a little bit of an anxiety point for a lot of Georgia fans just because, you know, they haven't had him available much in the last couple seasons. And McIntosh is the same as well, right? Like he's been out for decent points or decent parts of the last 2 years. So I think the anxiety or, you know, the worry there is definitely valid. And I agree with you 100%. Like, I think McIntosh is a huge weapon in the passing game, and I think that they will, you know, use him. But yeah, these guys like Edwards and Robinson need to be ready to go. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot of, you know, kind of like the walk-on kind of running backs in the second half of games this year, especially when Georgia has a lead and is in control, just to keep kind of the tread on the tires of these other guys.
Yeah, I was going to bring.
Cash
Yeah,
Jones.
well, yeah, but you saw. I mean, Savon Clark got carries last year, right? I mean, you saw that happen when Georgia was banged up a little bit, and I think you're definitely going to see some more of that this year. The good news is, like Graham said, the schedule. You know, you have the Oregon game, but then the schedule, you do have games kind of built in where hopefully, knock on all the wood, you can give guys a breather and also get some of these 3 and 4 deep guys some reps to get their feet under them.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for jumping in, man. Appreciate you hopping in here. Looks like we got a request from Scott, so I will add you in here, Scott. And Scott, whenever you're ready, fire away, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say, if anything, I think the game plan's got to be predicated on the run this year, just to draw them in and change the release point. Absolutely abuse them with the tight ends for Oregon. I just think the offensive line's too good and the running backs are too versatile not to. I was going to ask about Kendall, how Mr. Milton's doing, see where he's kind of at, if he's getting at least a little bit of rotation and touch. I know he's been, you know, precautionarily held out, but also what's the player you guys feel like no one is talking about now that they will be by week 6, 7, or 8?
Yeah, I'll take the Milton question real quick, and then we'll go around on the second one. Yeah, Kendall, you know, I think what you said is correct. Like, they're definitely being precautionary with him. That being said, I know he did practice some yesterday. You know, I don't think that there was heavy contact type of drills, but he's at least getting out there and moving around. I think if the Oregon game was this weekend, he could go. What I've been told to expect is, you know, you'll see him get some reps and touches, but you may see him come in for 2 plays and then come out for 4 or 5, right? Like, I don't think that, you know, they're gonna do anything to kind of risk him straining that hamstring, but I think that they are going to be intentional with how they use him and give him touches because he can be a weapon. And I mean, that's another thing that because Kenny McIntosh has been so good in the passing game that we kind of overlook or don't talk about enough. But like Milton can do some things in the passing game as well. And like I would not be shocked if they kind of, use that as maybe an ace up the sleeve against Oregon if they need a big play at some point. Like maybe he comes out of the backfield on a wheel route like you saw him do on G-Day. Because if he catches the ball in the open field and it's him and like a safety, it's problematic for the defense, to say the least, just because he's so hard to bring down. So I think you'll see him. But I think that they definitely, are trying to make decisions for, the next 4 months, not just for the Oregon game, if that makes sense. But I'd love to hear John, Josh, Jason, all you guys. Who's the player you think we'll be buzzing about in 6 weeks?
I'll throw one out there. It's a guy that's been around for a couple of years, but we seem to have forgotten about him. Is Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I think he is going to be a guy that's going to make some plays, and folks are talking about with good reason. A.D. Mitchell and Kyrus Jackson, like all those guys, but MRJ, I think, is going to make some plays for Georgia, and I think by the time you get in midseason, folks are going to view him as a real key contributor.
I don't know if this qualifies or he will be the talk of the team, because offensive line play doesn't get talked, on Twitter like it is. But if Graham is saying this is one of the best lines that Kirby's ever had, and a position that hasn't been talked about that's locked down is Cedric Anpron. And if he's right on the edge of being, on one of the All-American teams, and if this, we get the ball running and Stetson has time to throw, that's going to be in large part because of good, offensive line play. And that, I think Anpron's definitely the leader there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be one of the sort of the veteran leaders there.
I'm going to go with Kamari Lassiter, just mainly because Ringo's on the other side, and he's going to get more opportunities to make those plays.
Yeah, kind of mirroring what happened with Ringo last year and DK.
Dang it. You stole mine. I will go with so for defense, I'll go with Javon Bullard. I think he's going to be your starting slot corner star kind of guy. And he is very, very fast and, I think just extremely athletic. And I think that because of some of the stuff Jason was just talking about with the boundary corner play, and because teams like Alabama had a lot of success picking on Georgia in the slot last year, you're going to see that area get tested a lot early, and I think that he's going to have the opportunity to make some plays, and I think he's probably going to do a surprisingly good job in run support just for a guy his size. I think he's a pretty hard-nosed dude. And then I'll go with Dylan Bell for offense. You go and look at his high school tape, and it's like he's doing everything all over the field. And I think I posted this on Twitter in the dead of summer when there was nothing else to talk about. But one prediction that I threw out back in the summer was that we will see Dylan Bell touchdown pass sometime before his career is over. But for the fun of it, we'll see him throw a touchdown pass this season, kind of similar to the Kenny Mack one in the Orange Bowl. I think he might come on an end around and raise up and fire one for 6 at some point.
Yeah, and I guess for mine, I know that Oscar Delp was a highly ranked recruit that we got, but I think a lot of people think with the way the depth chart ranks and with Eric coming in, I think that a lot of people probably think that he won't have much production, but I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be hard to keep off the field in certain packages, so that would be probably the one I'm going to go with.
I'm going to throw out my defensive guy real quick before we move on. Zion Logue. I think people are going to be talking about Zion Logue by the time we get to the middle of the season.
Nice. Okay. All right. So I got an interesting one.
I was going to say Rosemead. John took that earlier, but I'll just add one more sentimental.
We lost him.
We lost Jim.
Muted himself.
Not sure what happened there. Yeah, so Don Blaylock was mine.
Oh, nice.
My other
Yes.
kind of sentimental receiver, someone that we all obviously know about and are thinking about, but would love to see him kind of come back with a vengeance. I think we're going to have 3 guys that could be in that situation, right? So Rosemary Jackson, similar, and then even Kieras, because we never really saw fully, or at least wasn't healthy all year last year. So looking forward to see what those guys can do.
I'll throw in a special team one. Give me the Australian punter.
Thorson.
He's going to get plenty of pub, dude. Trust me.
Dude.
He's tatted up, isn't he?
They all are. I think
He's
it's a
probably going
requirement.
like downtown Athens too.
Yeah, Pro Kick Australia. I think it's a requirement for Pro Kick Australia that you have some kind of low fade, almost like faux hawk haircut, and a lot of tattoos.
I'm waiting for Stequavius' full sleeve to come in. That's what I'm waiting. Last thing, I promise I'll get off the mic. Ty Smith, I know he's coming back from injury. I know he's more of a zone cover guy, and we run the heck out of man. Is he at least working in to be a significant contributor at some point, coming off this injury, or is it looking to be, everyone else and then him?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you just said it. He's coming off an injury, and so it's hard to make any like firm judgments on the play he's had in fall camp, just because the guy, you can't condition when you have an ACL injury, right? Like, the things that you have to do to stay in football shape are fairly based in cardio, and it's just hard to do cardio without a knee. So I think he, is kind of working his way back into shape. Right now, I think he's kind of, the second, third guy in line, probably at some sub packages and stuff like that. But it's a long season, and Georgia is thin in the secondary. And, if someone gets banged up, he could have to come in and play some really significant snaps. And I think just as the season goes on, he'll probably kind of find himself in better shape. I know that there was some reports yesterday that during the media viewing period of practice that he was not present. I posted a note on our Dog Central subscriber forum about this last night, but I did confirm with quite a few sources that he did practice yesterday. He's still there and part of the team and all that. No new injuries or nothing crazy going on there. So if anyone saw that, there's nothing to be kind of alarmed or concerned about there, I guess I should say.
If he doesn't quit jogging on the practice field, Kirby Smart might kill him.
That's it.
All right. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
I was trying to be nice about it, but no.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm going to go back to listener. I appreciate the answers.
Absolutely, Scott. Always a pleasure having you in. Thanks for joining, man.
You know me, Graham, and you know how it goes. I'm just going to tell it like it is.
Hey, I know. That's why we love you.
Do you have anybody lined up?
I do.
Okay, great.
I've got some stuff from the YouTube chat here. So this would be one probably for Jason. How soon can Georgia get the UCLA running back commit on campus for a visit? And I guess kind of where do we stand in that situation?
Oh, I would maybe watch for possibly the Auburn game. I know he's going to visit Texas A&M also, and he's going to take I'm not sure if he's taken any so far in June. Maybe one, I think. So I think he's going to use all of his visits. And so I would say maybe look for the Auburn game or maybe one of the smaller games.
Awesome. Thank you. One other one to kind of an interesting comment here from Jim Page. He said, I know the Lanning knows Georgia narrative has been popular this offseason, but no one has mentioned that Brian McClendon was on their staff the past 2 years. Do you think that gives Georgia any sort of advantage? I mean, it could. Obviously he recruited a lot of those guys. I mean, Oregon has 2 wide receivers on their roster that were top top 8 receivers in their class. I think in the class of 2021. So this will be their second year in the program. Neither had, very significant contributions last year, but definitely both talented guys. So, I think especially when it comes down to kind of how the secondary may want to match up with some of these guys, or, is this a guy we can play press coverage on, or do we want to give up, outside leverage or inside leverage here? Some of those questions definitely could be helpful.
Yeah, I think the challenge is when you're talking about coaches moving teams and having some kind of advantage is on Dan Lanning's side, he's trying to install a whole new system with new coaching staff, with that stuff is very, very difficult. And learning all the players' capabilities, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost like people who haven't been there before, it's hard to visualize, but you don't have a lot of time to focus on the tendencies of the other team, because you're trying to get your team to actually execute on what they need to execute on. And I think the same thing with Brian McClendon. For me, I think some of that is a little bit there's knowledge in the building, but I think you don't know the development from spring to now of those guys either. College is just a weird time with people developing. So I don't think it gives either team any kind of big advantage. I do think there's knowledge in the building, but there's always knowledge in the building personally. So
fair enough. Okay, yeah, another one that was interesting that I got over Twitter here. Jordan Davis became kind of the crowd favorite, the fan favorite last year. He was sort of the media darling, and in a lot of ways, he sort of became like the mascot for the Georgia defense. Is there a guy in 2022 who you think will become sort of the media darling in that same kind of way?
It's absolutely Jalen. He's already lined up at fullback and caught a touchdown pass. He's, presumably one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft next year. He's playing the same position. He's a gifted athlete. Everyone's been saying he's probably the best player they had on defense last year and wasn't even in the draft. So, maybe it's somebody else, but I don't know how it's not him, other than Stetson, if you're talking about just a pure face of the team.
I didn't Nolan Smith for that list. I think he's very personable. He went to SEC Media Days. He goes snow skiing. I like Nolan Smith.
Well, plus on Jalen, Kirby Smart has even said that he's in better shape and better condition and basically ready to go, all 3 downs.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to go with Nolan Smith too, Jim. As far in terms of if you think about the personality of the defense, the guy who is kind of that big smile on his face kind of thing. I think if you think about who's going to be the best player, I think is obviously going to be, in my opinion, Jalen Carter. But I shared a tweet in the space of the Nuck If You Buck video. Watch number 97, Warren Brinson. Watch him dance in that video. That guy's going to make some people smile this year on the field. He is just really infectious. So
that makes sense. He's hilarious by all accounts. I can't believe nobody said Stetson. I mean, come on, he's already got. He's already got the Disney sort of story, the script.
Well, I think, but see,
the walk-on coming to theaters June 2033 on the Stetson Bennett story.
There might actually be Stetson fatigue.
I know that there's people that have strong opinions on him in both directions, but what I'm going to say is that there's been a lot of people in the national media that are analyzing his play from a football standpoint that I think have kind of either mislabeled or underestimated some of his talents, just how effective he is. I think in Monken's system might be the best way to put it. Talking about him as a college football player, not as an NFL, prospect or whatever. he is going to be the returning national title winning quarterback on a defending champion that is going to, compete for a college football playoff spot again. I think, if you look at sort of how that offense is set up, I think he's set up to have a lot of success again this year. I think statistically he's probably going to have a large year playing all 15 games. And so I'm not going to be shocked if, he ends up.
The only thing his story is missing is just Musburger going creepy on his girlfriend in the stands, I think.
Are you calling Stetson Bennett AJ McCarron?
No,
that's what I heard. Listen, here's the question though: are we going to get Stetson and the story? Are we getting Stequavius and the heel turn? Because that's what we got to know. That's what we'll find out with Oregon, I guess.
Yeah, he might have a little edge to him this year. Which I think may be a good thing for Georgia. He's definitely. I don't know. There was all the conversation with him this offseason back in spring practice about Kirby wanting him to step up as a leader, and by all accounts, he has. He's had a very good fall camp, and from a vocal kind of leadership standpoint and just a consistency, showing up and doing the right things every day, it seems like he's checking all of those boxes. So maybe he kind of goes from being that guy that he said at one point last year the dreams kind of come true, but now I have to learn what it's like to be an SEC starter, and maybe that's kind of started to fall into place for him, and all of a sudden he plays with a little more like Baker Mayfield kind of edge to him. So we have Kennington here I invited to speak, Kennington Lloyd Smith. Kennington, if you're on here, go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in. Would love to hear what you have to say.
For sure. Thank you for having me on. Kennington Lloyd Smith, Georgia graduate. In the sports media field. I live in Iowa, cover the University of Iowa Hawkeyes football men's basketball team. So just follow the Dawgs from afar, and I appreciate what y'all do here at this site, all the intel and everything. So the last time I hopped in this space, I just wanted to chime in and say that. But I'm down for any and every Georgia-related conversation. Has anybody talked about Darnell yet? That's, to me, one of the bigger storylines that I've been closely following. It seems like ever since he entered into the program, there's been so much potential there, but it's just been whether it's conditioning and then the injury and then working his way back from the injury. Another setback in the spring, he wasn't able to practice, but all indications is that he's kind of healthy in this fall camp and he's ready to roll. So I would just want to hear everybody's opinion on just kind of where they see Darnell fitting into the offense.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for jumping in and thanks for the kind words, and thanks for representing the Dawgs out in Iowa. Hope it's a fun season covering Kirk Ferentz and those guys out there.
The Iowa question would be involving a tight end, of course. So.
Of course.
On brand.
Of course. I'm gonna hold back on pushing the Georgia tight end U narrative up here until I see it in fruition this fall. That's a touchy subject out here, obviously. So I'm focused on the tight end. So that's what I'm interested in talking about.
Awesome. No, fair enough. Iowa obviously has quite a legacy at that position as well. But on Darnell, I'm always hesitant to say what I'm about to say about anybody, because I'm afraid that I'm going to come off as a homer or something I don't know. People are going to feel like I'm blowing something out of proportion, but I always try to just kind of pass along what I'm told about things happening in as plain a language as I can. And so what I have been told many times this fall camp is that Darnell is in, the best shape that he's been in at any point since arriving at Georgia. But B, his Georgia hired his old high school coach this offseason. So I think, there's kind of a greater level of support there for him. Everything is kind of fallen into the place for him, on field and off field. And I've had people say he is playing at a level in some of these team drills and scrimmages that, you would see a All-American type of tight end play at. Like, he cannot be brought down with one tackler. He's gone from being, I think, a guy who Georgia could really rely on in the as an inline tight end and as a blocking tight end. Now that he's healthy, he's able to go out and do some things in terms of pass routes and catching the ball and doing things after the catch that, everyone kind of always like dreamed he would and thought he might when he was coming out of high school. But yeah, I think this is the year for him. I think he has a big season. Things kind of click into place, especially with as much attention as Bowers is going to get from defenses, just because he's such a proven commodity at this point. Like, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Washington in some of these 2-3 tight end sets. And I think you're going to see him split out wide at times as well. Like, Georgia is, you have AD Mitchell, but I think the outside receiver positions are a little bit of a question mark after him. And so I think you'll see them utilize those tight ends on the boundary some. And I mean, if I was a 6 foot tall defensive back and all of a sudden 6'7" Darnell Washington walks out there and I got to cover him man to man, like, that's a nightmare, 50-50 balls or 80-20 for him. So I think he's going to have a big year. I'll go on record as saying it. And I hope he does. Just kind of after all he's sort of been through injury wise, it would be fun to watch him have a big season and go get a big paycheck.
Yeah, I saw him as like one of the top 4 or 5 tight end prospects, and you can easily see with a year that maybe you're saying is on the table for him that he could move up to second or third, and that would be it's a big jump for the tight end position. So I'm definitely cheering for him. I think he's just I was excited. He's just one of those guys that came in and we announced. He's just like Kirby was recruiting really well at the time, but still, it just felt like it kept rolling. I just felt like Darnell was one of those guys that just kept us rolling in the recruiting, and I'd love to see him blow up. Man, I really do. I'm a big Darnell fan.
Awesome. All right. Before we wrap this up, I think Dustin is still in here. Anthony Evans commits tomorrow at 4:00 p.m. How are we feeling about that, Dustin?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty confident. I think that the Gundy news at Oklahoma helped, but even Jason posted at Dawgs Central for about a month or so. Even when he was getting crystal balls from Oklahoma insiders, people on the Georgia side felt very comfortable. There was a time where he might have been kind of looking towards Oklahoma's side, but you can kind of read into some of the quotes that he had where he's probably giving Monken more credit. I know a lot of people mention the 1,000-yard receivers a lot of times, but if you kind of dig into the stats, Monken does do a good job of getting the wide receivers involved and having a balanced attack. But all that being said, I think we feel pretty confident at Dawgs Central tomorrow we'll land them.
Awesome.
Go Dogs.
Yeah, I guess, I'm sorry, Josh, did you have something to say?
Go Dogs.
Oh, yeah. Well, one thing about Evans, I'm looking back at a conversation I had with him. This was back in, so this was June 13th, right on the heels of his visit to Athens. I was kind of asking him some questions about his visit, and he gave me permission to quote this DM that he sent me. He said, "Everyone looks at history and says Georgia doesn't throw the ball and this and that, but realistically, you don't throw when you're kicking people's butts. You run it to get the game over." The staff broke down first half stats from last season and explained exactly how I fit into the offense and special teams. Georgia is definitely right at the top as I get ready to make my decision. So that was back in June. Obviously, that was a long time ago in the world of recruiting, but Dustin mentioned kind of some of the negative recruiting that's gone on with Georgia's lack of 1,000-yard wide receivers. And I thought it was kind of interesting insight from him to sort of have an idea of how that staff is kind of combating some of that. We also did an article on Dawgs Central about, if you compare Georgia's first half stats or compare Georgia's passing stats by what the score differential is in a game that last year's Georgia quarterbacks fared very well compared to Bryce Young and some national title winning teams over the last half decade. The only one that was really a huge gap would be 2020 Bama and 2019 LSU, but very, very efficient quarterback play and explosive pass plays quite frequently.
One thing I would like to mention, actually, two things. On the website, for a lot of new users, you can do a search feature. So if you feel like you're kind of behind, or we mentioned something last week, you can search Anthony Evans or whatever recruit it is, and you'll be able to see any notes that we've had. So that's one thing I would say for people that want to get on the website. And I know a lot of other websites that you have to go dig into different forum posts to figure it out. So that's kind of a useful tool. And then the second thing, Jason did hop off. He did pop his mock class for Georgia. So if you're wanting to see that, Jason did just make that live about 40 minutes ago.
Awesome. Yeah. Definitely check that out. Last thing I wanted to say is if you look at the tweet that I shared right here on the top of the page, myself and Josh and John, we are going to be doing a live broadcast from the Players Lounge Classic City Collective tailgate before the Oregon game on September 3rd in Atlanta. The tailgate starts at 11 a.m. We'll probably go live on air a little bit before that. We want to try and get off of the live stream, around noon, because once football games start, we know that everyone's focus will kind of shift in that direction. But we're going to do kind of a version of a UGA game day, Dawgs Central game day, kind of, so to speak. We'll have some cool guests on the show. We'll have lots of analysis and breakdown. And if you hit that link up there on the top, you can come in and register for free to come and join that tailgate. So we hope you guys will do that. And
hey, Graham, before you sign off, Jeff Hightef in the YouTube chats want to know what time that announcement is tomorrow. Do we know?
4 p.m.
4 p.m. All right.
For Anthony
Awesome.
Evans. Yep. 4 p.m. for Anthony Evans. And join us over at the Players Lounge tailgate. And if you have not checked out Dawgs Central, we are still running our launch special 6 months for $33.18. We share a few tidbits of information on these spaces, but there is a lot of intel, daily practice reports, the most detailed scrimmage notes I think you're going to find anywhere, all on there for about $5.50 a month to get you through the rest of football season. Josh has a 200-page PDF with player grades and advanced stats for all Power 5 teams, so you can check that out as you get ready for the season. But lots of great content, and all of us in the space